So let's get going on this module on how to express would with any verb in Spanish. First of all, I'd like to ask you if you remember how to say I would like, the handle I would like. That would be me gustaría. Now we have the verb gustar, to like, and you can see that for would like, we get this ria ending here, this sound, this key sound of ria. So just the verb on its own, to like, gustar, but would like, it takes on this ria sound, gustaría. So this ria sound represents would in Spanish verbs. So let's do another example. Do you remember the handle for I would love to? That would be me encantaría. We have a similar situation where we have encantar in this instance, meaning to love, encantar. But encantaría is would love. Again, you can clearly hear that ria sound at the end of the verb standing for would. And this is something that works for more or less all verbs in Spanish. So let's go into how to create this would tense with most Spanish verbs. The first step is that you take the full verb, the infinitive. So for example, we could have pagar, to pay. Now to express I would pay, again you take that full verb and you add this ia onto the end of it. So it's actually very easy to form this tense because you are keeping the full version of the verb, the infinitive. So that would become pagaría. Here we have pagar, and to that full verb we add this ia, and you get would. But the key sound here is ria. Even though we're only adding ia, the key sound, which is more important actually, is this ria. So we get pagaría. Now it's very important with this would tense that you pay attention to this accent over the I, because if you do not stress that part in your pronunciation, you won't be understood. So you must hear it clearly as pagaría. That's where you're stressing over the I, and that never changes for this would tense. It's always ria that you're pushing down on. Let's do another example. We could take the verb to use, which is usar. So what happens for I would use is you take usar and add again your ia, and what you get is usaría. Here you have I would use from usar to usaría. Again, you can hear me stressing this accent over the I, usaría. What about this one? We have comer, to eat. So if we wanted to express something like I would eat, again, you take comer, and to that infinitive, you're adding the ia, and the sound that you get is comería. Notice that this is an ER verb, and in our previous examples, they were AR verbs, but nothing changes. You still keep the full verb, adding on the IA and stressing this part. So, comería, I would eat. Let's look at this one. We have sufrir, to suffer. Now this is an IR verb, but again, nothing is going to change. So we want to express, say, I would suffer. So we take the full verb, sufrir, add on this IA, and what we get is sufriría. That one's a little bit harder to pronounce. Notice that the verb on its own is sufrir. So the challenge is really in the pronunciation to be able to hit this point properly. So it would be sufriría. I can't stress anything at the front here. Always with would, I have to wait until the very end. So Forming this tense, would, is easy because we're always using the infinitive, the full verb. Doesn't matter if it's an AR, ER, or IR verb. It doesn't change. In most cases, the vast majority of cases, we get to keep the full verb, doesn't change. And then to that, we're just adding on this little ending. So that part is easy, right? Very easy, actually. The real challenge is then being able to control your pronunciation so that for would, you make sure that you're stressing nothing until the very end. So you would have sufriría. So let's try again from the beginning to get our pronunciation happening for this would tense. We have pagar, and we want to say, I would pay. How would you say that? Pagaría. We have usar. How would you say, I would use? Usaría. We have comer. How would you say, I would eat? Comería. We have sufrir. How would you say, I would suffer? Sufriría. Try this one. We have tocar, which is to touch. How would you say, I would touch? Tocaría. We have besar. How would you say, I would kiss? Besaría. So key points to take away from this video. When we want to express would in Spanish verbs, the key sound is ría. And it's easy to form because we just use the full verb. But the challenge is in the pronunciation, in that you have to be very patient and go all the way to the end before you stress anything. So for example, if you were to say besaría, you would not be understood. You would get that classic blank look where the person is thinking in their head, I have no idea what you just said. Even though, if you were to spell it, it would be fine, but because you're not stressing this end point, you won't be understood. So you can't say besaria or besaria or whatever it is. It has to be this ending, besaria. So you have to be very patient before you push down and the end. And you don't have to stress it as much as I'm doing here. I'm overdoing it just to get you to focus on this point. In reality, what you would hear is besaría.